you know what? Let me come better than that. Let me give you a list of things you need to be thinking about, or at least need to be researching on. For example, travel. You need to find out how travel is going to be affected post-crisis. If you have a business that requires for you to go abroad, back and forth, or you're a person who travels the world for a living, or you have a home or multiple homes, or you simply have family back home who you visit a couple times a year. You need to know the ramifications of this crisis on the airlines that you may be accustomed to using. What will be the new laws surrounding travel? Will new vaccine laws be introduced, making them compulsory, as you may be anti-vaccine? Education. What's going to happen here? Are all schools going to be given government guidelines that you're happy with? Have you read any government guidelines in relations to schools, colleges and universities? Are there going to be any changes? And if so, what are they? Do you feel that they're necessary or extreme? If you've got children at primary or elementary school, how does your government plan to keep them safe? And yet again, will new vaccine laws be introduced, making them compulsory for your children to take them? As you may be parents that may not agree with vaccines and haven't vaccinated any of your children for fear of injury. What are your alternatives? Would you or could you do homeschooling? Employment. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that countries are going to have a high unemployment rate after this crisis goes away and lockdowns loosen before returning back at some point in the near future. So you need to find out the true reality of your country's unemployment stats and find out what rate is employment growing in your country, and also research what strategies your government has in place to tackle the high spike in unemployment, and how long will it take for your employment to return back to normal, if it ever does. And again, what new policies are your governments going to be introducing within the employment sector in terms of safety? Working from home. Hypothetically speaking, of course, just say employment is not a reality due to the scarcity of available work. Have you considered the fact of starting an online business to ease your financial burdens? As there are many tutorials on YouTube on setting up your own online business, regardless the niche. Believe me, you don't have to be tech savvy, as there are many videos out there that show a step-by-step process without any steps missed. This could be an exciting alternative if you have any concerns or fears about working within a public environment. Food. How is the food situation in your country? No doubt there will be a shortage of food widespread within your country, with food being measured and monitored at checkouts to make sure everyone is getting their fair share. So the question is, does your country rely heavily on the importing of foods from other countries? If the answer is yes, then you can expect food prices to rise to cover the fees for importing foods to your country, especially of the organic stock. How is the supply of food within your country? Is it doing well? You need to know what strategies are in place that your governments are using to ensure the flow of food is circulating to all the rural and urban parts of your country. Have you considered preparing for future shortages of food? At least 2 to 3 months worth of food that has long shelf life. That's if you have the money, of course. If so, then what are you waiting for? If you have a piece of land, especially in the rural parts of your country, have you considered buying seeds and growing your own food? For times like this would be wise. Put that land to work, put it to use, allow it to do what it was meant to do. which is to cultivate and provide us humans food. Social distancing. Ugh, I hate this subject so much. This protective measure has been so confusing for most of mankind, to the point it's not even worth mentioning or highlighting its flaws or contradictions in its designs. How embarrassing. However, nevertheless, regardless of your stance on it, it's a reality that we all have to live with. So instead of complaining about it, we have to learn and adapt to this long-term innovation into our society. So that means we try our utmost best to understand the rules of social distancing so we can build our lifestyles and hopefully our businesses around it, as we still need to eat, right? Because no doubt social distancing has the potential to cause businesses great harm, such as the hospitality industry, like restaurants, cafes, hotels, bars, theme parks, transportations and gym, etc. You get the point. This is why GPs have closed their doors. And that's the same with hospitals. Even to the point we can't even go and visit family members. And if we do, it's from a distance. So you need to make sure that your business has a strategy in place to combat this unfortunate variable that could potentially destroy one's business for good. Or if you are intending on starting a new business, I would advise to stay away from the hospitality industry for a while to see what happens there. In the meantime, why don't you consider starting an online business, as I assume the online business industry will be booming due to the influx of people staying at home. Online sales must be going through the roof right now. In fact, it's not even an assumption. This is facts. Social freedom. I'm going to be real with you. The freedom to move around is not going to be as it was back in December 2019. Those days are over. I really do believe that lockdowns and social distancing is going to be with us always on some kind of level, until our world reaches at least 60 to 80% herd immunity. And even then, I don't think freedom will be fully restored. And FIVE generation is here. Surveillance is going to be almost on a perverted level. Power is so addictive. We leave it there. So in order for you to fully be able to adapt, you need to know the parameters in which your freedom is confined to. Are you hearing the things I'm saying? I'm saying things which I thought I would never be saying. If someone would have said this to me, I would have written it off as a bad joke and tell that person to stop watching films. This is crazy. However, it's soon to become our reality. You will see. I just can't help seeing on the horizon nothing but some kind of police state coming from all this. While most look to the horizon and see nothing but the sun rising and setting, I see something completely different. I wish I could share the same eyesight. It's just too obvious. And plus, it's something that our former Supreme Court Judge, Jonathan Lord Sumption, said in regards to the lockdowns, which even received support from tech billionaire Elon Musk. Lord Sumption had written an article saying about the lockdowns, I quote, "Without doubt the greatest interference with personal liberty in our history." He also added, I quote, "Even in wartime, we never confined the entire population to their homes 24/7. He also said, I quote, ending the lockdown is a political decision, not a scientific one. How interesting. And the final two quotes he said, we have to ask ourselves, what are the limits to the things that the state can legitimately do to people against their will? And he further said, I quote, to say there is no limits is the stuff of tyrants. Every despot who ever lived thought he was coercing his subjects for their own good or that of society at large. So, I was going to put my suspicions as paranoia, but now I'm starting to think I'm not losing a few nuts and bolts. Only time will tell, I guess. Places of hospitality. Now, if you're a person who absolutely loves dining out with friends and family, then there may be a problem with that. If governments around the world, in most countries, wish to observe the social distancing policies, then that may be problematic, because it's yet to be seen how they will continue the social distancing within the places of hospitality. Is it going to be practical? I think not. And if they do, then at least half of the tables within restaurants, cafes, bars and clubs have to go in order to observe the social distancing between people, right? Then that will mean less profit for these kinds of places. So the proprietors of these establishments won't be having that. They need to make the differences of lost in profit margins. So expect prices to rise. And I can't even blame them. The question is, will you accommodate such inflations? So going out with friends may pose a problem in the future, should our governments want to hold fast to these policies. So these are things you should be watching out for. New vaccines. Now, this is a very, very controversial topic for a lot of people on this planet. As we all know, there is a remarkable individual who is spearheading a campaign for the sake of the public on a global level. You either love him or hate him, and that's the one and only Mr. Bill Gates, the 2020 global superstar, planet Earth's only hope, the one who transitioned from being the Microsoft wizard to supreme chief medical expert of our world. As we all know, his main goal is to achieve herd immunity for at least 70 to 90% of the world, thereabouts. He's the one who said life won't return back to normal until we have vaccinated the world. So, if you're not about vaccines, then it would be wise for you to keep your eyes on any kind of vaccine legislations, as vaccines may well be made compulsory. Then if that's the case, refusal may lead to denial of traveling by public transport, education, employment, medical care, traveling abroad, attending public gatherings, maybe even welfare, or those that are not vaccinated may be kept under lockdown indefinitely until they are. Because I know in some countries vaccines are mandatory, especially when it comes to any institution of education, and there are even general practitioners who refuse to give medical assistance if the patient is not vaccinated. That's facts, people. So, if you are concerned about vaccines for you or your children becoming compulsory, then stay engaged with your government's resolutions towards this global crisis, as after pandemics usually comes vaccination programs. Public health. What's happening here, such as hospitals and your GPs? What is the situation in terms of health services? Are the services going to be restricted? And if so, how long? Because in certain countries, maybe most, screening for cancer and its types and other major operations that are needed, such as serious health issues pertaining to the heart, brain, and other important bodily organs and mental health, unfortunately, have now been put on the back burner. So, if you're waiting or have loved ones who are, you need to find out when will things go back to normal, because I myself can't even begin to slightly comprehend the anxiety, the fear that people must be feeling at this time, which can ultimately make their conditions even worse. My advice for those who are blessed to be healthy at this time is to safeguard your health by changing your diet. Eat lightly and healthier, such as foods that are high in vitamin D, as outside time has been restricted, and so your skin has been denied its proper nutriments from the sun. And drink warm water with some lemon to help your body with weight loss due to the polyphenol antioxidants which is found in lemons. And also lemon and water is said to stimulate your digestive system. Also, restrict the amount of food you take in. As you can see, we are currently under lockdown and movement is restricted, so putting on those pounds become easy for most of us. Taxes. You can be sure about taxes rising, especially after the global lockdown, which almost sent our economy to the graveyard. The British government said our economy would be back to normal in 2 years. 2 years. We leave it there. You guys can believe what you want to. It's your liberty to do so. Just don't be surprised to see an increase in taxes. Be prepared. So find a way to work your finance around it. They will try their best to delay the increase. However, it's inevitable. It has to come to pass. Pensions. Unfortunately, pensions may have to be reduced as time goes by. It will be hard to live on pensions due to inflation. You see, I worry about the seniors of our society or our communities. They have put so much into our economy by paying their taxes for years. And when they are now ready to retire, their pensions remain insufficient to provide even the basic essentials of life. When inflation sets in, are their pensions going to be enough? No. Again, no. Living will be extremely difficult for our seniors as it was in the first lockdown. Pensions will not be enough. It's bad as it is. So now our seniors will delay retirement and work and continue to work to make ends meet. And if the economy remains in a serious mess, which it will, then the age of retirement will move from 70 to 75. So be prepared. Property. Another thing you need to consider is property. Now, I don't know much about property, so I'm not even going to go there. But for first-time buyers and those who want to cash in, just make sure you do your due diligence in this current crisis. Learn how the global crisis has affected the property market and its prices. Also, investigate if there are going to be any new future legislation surrounding the property market that may make buying and selling easier or harder for you. I know the UK house market has taken a bit of a fall last year, 2020, but some have faith prices will be restored by this year, 2021 to 2022. However, if buying or selling your house is proving to be a bit of a task, don't worry. Just exercise a bit of patience. Everything has its time and place. Within that time, just do your due diligence. Shops. Now, if you're anything like me when it comes to shopping, I'm the kind of person who hates to shop online. I need to see what I'm buying in the flesh, especially clothes. As for electrical equipment, I can work with that. anything other than that, I need to see with my own two brown eyes and hold it with my own two brown hands. However, what I'm trying to say is, I know how to shop online when I'm good and ready to, even though I've only started using Amazon like in 2017. Before that, I've never shopped online. I just used the internet for information purposes. So the point I'm trying to make is that many people still don't know how to shop online, believe it or not, especially our seniors within our local communities. A lot of people are still ignorant to the use of the internet. So why am I saying all of this? Because leveraging the internet to our advantage is part of our behavioral adaptation process. Just look what's happening in our world today, especially with regards to the shops. All were closed except essential shops like food shops, obviously excluding restaurants and fast food takeaway joints. But the shops that were allowed to stay open, like convenience stores and supermarkets, opening times were restricted, and the irritation of the social distancing was strongly enforced. What I'm trying to hit home with you guys is, you need to learn how to use the internet to your advantage. Now, in a situation like this, you could have simply ordered your weekly shopping online and had it delivered to your doorstep, right? Without all the troubles of having to wait outside the supermarket for about 3/4 of an hour. Do I order my food online? Hell no. Like I said, I only order electrical equipment online, and all the other things are purchased in real life, not in the digital world. But the thing is, I could if I really wanted to. However, we have our seniors who don't have the strength or health to stand in a queue for that length of time, in addition to the weather, whether it be piping hot or North Pole cold. And there are people with mobility issues that live by themselves without family. They need to learn how to use the internet also. I know some people personally who are intimidated by the use of the internet. So if you know someone like that, please take a moment out of your life and teach someone who fits that criteria. As I personally feel many governments around the world don't care about our seniors, aka the elderly. So again, if you're a person who doesn't know how to use the internet, then you need to start learning now. As I believe as time goes on, we will see less and less of brick and mortar businesses, as every industry is slowly moving over to the digital world, the internet, all this and more. So you need to know this so that you can better prepare yourself and put yourself in a position that will benefit you and your family. Don't be lazy. This global recession is real. Don't sleep on it. Just because you feel everything may appear to be somewhat normal, it's not. And you will see the after effects of the world being shut down. You need to adapt to your new environment, or you will run into trouble with yourself. Right now, you can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It's your choice. There are literally two paths to take. One leads to self-destruction and the other leads to self-mastery. Let me be clear here, absolutely clear. Deaths will increase as more people become unemployed, lose businesses, lose homes, lose marriages, lose health, lose families. Suicide will be on the increase. Drugs and alcohol abuse will also be on the increase. And the results to that will be people becoming more stressed, which will turn into depression and then becomes chronic, increasing the cases of domestic violence and murder. The possibility of suicide will become a reality for some. We don't want that. We don't need that. What we want and need are soldiers. Soldiers. Not all war is fought with knives, guns, tanks, and F-16 fighter jets. There are many types of weapons and many types of battlefields. Life is a big battlefield in general, let alone when the battlefield calls on reinforcements, such as your day-to-day trials and tribulations, as if that's not hard enough, as it is. And when it appears to be that you're finally getting on top of those reinforcements, they call on their allies, such as natural disasters, loss of loved ones, a serious illness, or in this case, a global crisis. You see, in every battlefield, you would find that it claims lives. And for those who don't lose their lives on the battlefield, they bear scars, whether it be psychological or physical. There's a saying, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So bearing that in mind, we dust off our clothes, attend to our wounds, whether that be losing your job, business, marriage, or a dear one. Then we step straight back up on the battlefield and be like, I'm ready. What's next? Adaptation is a must. You must evolve in accordance to your environment. You remember biology, evolution? Those species that fail to evolve die, and the ones that do evolve to match their external environment survive. That's just the natural order of things. Such is life. Be strong, never broken. Until next time.